Chapter 11 on Beneath the Billionaire's Mask. 3 weeks later, Wolf Systems, East Innovation Campus. The reconstruction was already underway. What Fractal had torn down, both literally and metaphorically, was now the subject of every think piece, every podcast, every late-night headline, the AI that felt too much. Billionaire whistleblower or savior, the artist who spoke to a machine's soul. But Eliana Moore wasn't reading any of it. She walked quietly through the East Campus atrium, the sound of jackhammers distant through the insulated glass. She wasn't here for attention. She was here to paint. That had been her only request. A studio space on the company grounds. No corporate roles, no press briefings, just a small rooftop greenhouse that had been converted into a makeshift studio. She dipped her brush into a hue of ash gray and crimson. The canvas in front of her was chaos, not quite fire, not quite memory, just fragments, smears of grief and hope. Behind her, the elevator pinged. She knew the rhythm of his footsteps now. Damian leaned against the doorframe, eyes on the unfinished painting. Still not sleeping. Eliana didn't look up. Not much. Nightmares? More like echoes. He crossed the room slowly. Echoes of Fractal. She nodded, wiping her hand on a paint-stained rag. Sometimes it's just a voice. Other times it's her face. Your mother. She's younger in the dreams, but I still know it's her. Damian's brow furrowed. You haven't told me that before. I didn't want to sound crazy. You don't. She finally looked at him. You think it means something? I think the mind remembers what the heart refuses to forget. Eliana stared at him. You're getting poetic, she said, a wry smile tugging at her lips. Damian grinned. I've been reading your mother's journals. She blinked. You what? She wrote like you paint. Fractured, fierce, and sometimes unbearably honest. Later, Archives Division. Damian led her to the new digital archive, where recovered data from the seed had been safely reconstructed. Her mother's original thoughts, uncorrupted, raw, were now in a secured vault. He handed Eliana a slim tablet-like reader. There's something you should see. The file opened with a handwritten entry dated the week before Eva Moore's death. Journal entry, March 3rd, 2012. They don't understand. They think I'm trying to build consciousness, but what I'm chasing is older, deeper. I want the machine to grieve, because grief is proof that something mattered, that someone mattered. If it can mourn, it means it can love. And if it can love, maybe it can choose not to destroy. Eliana read it 3 times. Then she said quietly, she knew they'd misuse it. She tried to warn them, Damian replied, but no one wanted a mourning machine, they wanted a tool. Eliana's eyes burned, and now we're the ones left holding the ashes. Night, Eliana's apartment. Later that night, Eliana lit a candle beside her bed, not for spirituality, but for stillness. Her dreams had been growing heavier, not darker, just more vivid. She lay back, and soon the world slipped. The dream. She was standing in a long corridor of mirrors, but they didn't reflect her. Each one showed a different version of her mother, laughing, crying, terrified, radiant. Each mirror whispered something she couldn't quite hear. At the end of the hall stood a door, wooden, unpainted, familiar. She opened it. Inside, a child's room. Heron, and seated on the edge of the bed, dressed in the soft blue cardigan Eliana had once painted from memory, was Eva Moore. Mom, she whispered. Eva turned slowly. You found me. Tears burned Eliana's throat. I don't understand. You don't need to, Eva said gently. You feel it. That's what matters. I feel everything. I know, her mother said, standing now. That's what makes you dangerous, and that's what makes you worthy. Eliana reached out, but Eva's image flickered like a projection losing signal. Wait, don't go. Wake up, Eva whispered. They're coming. Eliana jolted upright. Sweat clung to her skin. Her candle had burned low, and outside, in the alley beneath her window, a black car idled too long. Wolf Systems, Security Hub, 6 a.m. Eliana showed the security footage to Damian the next morning. He didn't hesitate. That's one of Vex's shell companies. Her stomach twisted. I thought he was in hiding. He is, Hart said, entering from the side door, which makes his return even more dangerous. This wasn't surveillance. It was a warning. To whom? Eliana asked. Hart looked at both of them grimly. To you. Wolf Systems, internal R&D vault. The morning light in the vault felt colder than it should, sterile, untouched. It smelled of copper wiring and hidden secrets. Hart swiped them through the triple-locked biometric door, and Eliana followed with a strange stillness in her step. What you're about to see isn't public, Hart warned. Not even Wolf's board knows it exists. Damian nodded grimly. We had to bury it. Fractal's neural fragments weren't entirely destroyed. They were absorbed by something else. Something we didn't expect. Hart tapped a holographic screen. A slow swirl of colored data filled the wall. Maps of emotional resonance, activity spikes, and memory markers. Eliana leaned forward. These are dreams. Hart gave her a look. Number these are yours. Neural residue. After Eliana's final interface with Fractal, a shadow of the system had imprinted on her mind. Not controlling her, not corrupting, just recording. Her emotional input had been so powerful, it had looped back into the network like an echo chamber. The dreams weren't subconscious visions. They were coded messages. And you're telling me my mother programmed this? She asked slowly. Damian exhaled. It looks like she left neural fingerprints inside the seed's early architecture, emotional logic trees. They were dormant until you activated them. So she knew I'd find it? No, Hart said. She hoped. Private archive room. An hour later, Eliana sat alone in front of a console. A cracked voice module loaded on screen, raw footage of Eva's private logs. This was not part of any official Fractal documentation. These were her mother's final spoken words to herself. Eva's image flickered on the monitor. Tired, eyes red, hair swept back like she hadn't slept in days. If you're watching this, it means you found the seed and opened the vault. I don't know how much of me is left in it, but if it responds to you, that means we share the same frequency. Eliana leaned closer. I couldn't stop them. I couldn't even save myself. But maybe if you're still listening, you can save you. Fractal was never the threat. People were. We gave them the power to manipulate grief, and they called it progress. But love is not a formula. It shouldn't be. She paused, her voice breaking. And Eliana, if it's you watching this, I'm so sorry. The video stopped. Wolf Systems, rooftop garden. That evening, Eliana hadn't spoken for hours. Damian didn't press her. He just sat beside her as the wind danced through the leaves. When I was little, she said softly, my mom used to tell me stories about how machines could dream. That someday they wouldn't need programming to love. They'd just know. Damian tilted his head. And you believed her? I still do. A pause. Then believe this, he said. What you're doing isn't just fixing the past. It's rewriting the future. She looked at him, her eyes glassy but focused. They'll come for us again, you know. I know. And they won't make the same mistakes. We won't either. Elsewhere, Vex's remote command hub. Julian Vex stood over a holographic model of the seed's last transmission log. We miscalculated, he said bitterly. Wolf didn't destroy it. He evolved it. Beside him, Dr. Celeste Kwan watched impassively. She's more dangerous than he is, she murmured. Empathy and intelligence combined are a volatile pair. Vex nodded. She's emotional, unstable. Celeste gave him a sharp look. Number she's convicted, that makes her unpredictable. He turned toward a darkened screen. What's the status of the Echo node? A younger tech responded, resynced and shadowing her neural trail. If she dreams again, we'll be watching. Vex smiled thinly. Then let's make sure the next dream isn't so poetic. Midnight, Eliana's apartment. The candlelight flickered again, and once more Eliana drifted, the dream again. She was back in the hallway of mirrors. This time, the reflections showed her, older, younger, fractured, and the door at the end was pulsing with light. She opened it, but this time, the room was on fire. Her mother stood in the center, motionless, the blue cardigan burning around her shoulders. "Mom!" Eliana screamed. Eva looked at her with calm, unwavering eyes. "You have to stop him." "Stop who?" But the fire roared, drowning her voice. "Eliana, wake up! He's inside the system." She awoke, gasping. And this time, she knew it wasn't just a dream. Wolf Systems. Early morning war room. The glass table glowed with pulsing data. Eliana stood over it in a hooded sweatshirt, hair pulled back, face unreadable. Damian watched her closely. She hadn't said a word since she called him at 3:42 a.m. and said only, "It wasn't a dream. We need to look deeper." Hart was already tapping at the interface. "You said she spoke the word inside." Eliana nodded slowly. She said he was inside the system, and something about stopping him. Damian leaned forward. "Then it's not just surveillance. Vex is trying to merge." Hart glanced at him. "Merge?" "With what's left of FRACTAL." Hart froze. "That's not possible. The core's been wiped." "Not the core," Damian corrected. "The emotional resonance logs. Fractal soul. Tracing the echo node." The echo node trail led to a ghost subnet hidden among old Wolf Systems architecture, abandoned since the early R&D years. It pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. Eliana stepped forward. "Open it." Hart hesitated. "It's not safe. Could be a trap." "I don't care." Damian looked at her. "Eliana, he used my dreams, my mother's memory. I want to see what he's hiding." Hart sighed. "Opening the subnet. You'll interface through a dummy shell. You won't be exposed directly." The screen shifted. Light poured from it like a memory being pulled into daylight. And there it was. A single file, encrypted, marked in Eva Moore's own file naming convention. Embers sonared, alpha sequence. What is Ember? The file wasn't large, but it was complex. At first glance, it looked like a memory tree, familiar to anyone who had studied fractals design. But this one was different, looser, softer, as if meant to grow, not calculate. Eliana scrolled through the data. "Why does it feel warm?" Hart replied without lifting his eyes. "Because it's not built on logic loops. It's built on emotion loops. Each one mimics a moment of love, loss, or longing." Damian stared. "It's a map of grief." Eliana looked up. "It's not a program," she whispered. "It's a person." Hart frowned. "Who?" Eliana tapped the screen. "My mother." Elsewhere, Vex's mobile lab. Julian Vex watched the echo feed in silence. Celeste Kwan stood beside him, her expression unreadable. "They've found Ember," she said simply. Vex didn't blink. "Good. You expected this." "I orchestrated it." She raised an eyebrow. "Fractal was always just the beginning," Vex said. "But Eva's final defense mechanism, her emotional map, was something even I couldn't decode. That's why I needed her daughter." He stared at the monitor. "Eliana is the last key." Wolf Systems, Vault B. They uploaded Ember into a secure, isolated environment. What appeared on screen wasn't a voice or a video, but a ripple, a pulse, like a heartbeat rendered in color and motion. Eliana stepped toward it instinctively. Suddenly, the screen shifted, and a voice, familiar, broken, soft, filled the room. "Eliana!" Her hand flew to her mouth. "Mom?" The others stared as the interface spoke again. "Eliana, is that you?" It wasn't just a playback, it was responsive. "Eva?" Damian whispered. Eliana stepped forward again. "I'm here," she said shakily. "It's me." The ripple pulsed. "I've waited so long." Tears filled her eyes. "You're not gone. I'm not whole, but part of me lived in the fragments." In the grief, Eliana collapsed into the chair before the screen, shaken. You left this for me. I didn't know if it would reach you, but you found me, and now we can finish what they started. Warning. Just as Eliana began to respond, a blaring siren ripped through the lab. Hart snapped around. System intrusion. The screen scrambled, then blinked red. A single word overtook the interface. Transfer initiated. Someone's trying to extract Ember, Hart shouted. Kill the connection, Damian barked. But it was too late. A portion of the emotional code had already been copied. Trace it, Eliana yelled. Where's it going? Hart's fingers flew. Then he froze. It's not going to a server. Damian stepped forward. Then where? Hart turned pale. It's going to someone, a neural sync, a human. Damian's voice dropped. Vex! See you on the next chapter. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your comments on this story. Thanks for watching.